crafty friends. Happy Friday night or Saturday morning if that's where you are. It is Friday, November the 10th, where I am in Guelph, Ontario, Canada, and I am doing the last live from my day on the Global Inspiration Stamp Team's 12 Days of Christmas. So this is my third project that is 3D. I love doing 3D projects. Have shown some cards and some fun folds, techniques, craft hacks, organizational tips, and so on with the other videos that I have posted today. And I really hope you like this project. So let's get going. We are going to make a holder for your 6x6 paper. So I'm just getting my one out here. This is it. The design I first saw by France Martin, and I've just kind of tweaked it maybe a little bit here and there, but this is the project. So what it's holding in here right now is the better part of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 6x6 paper packs, and it even holds, because it's snug enough left to right, all those little bits from that paper pack. So I don't normally put tabs or labels on my tabs, but I put the tabs in here to kind of keep them separated. And I find it works really, really well for making sure that when I'm crafting, I'm pulling out my 6x6, because they otherwise sit on a shelf and I forget to use them. We don't want that to happen. So this way they're right handy for me. And I do keep the page in here that comes with them. It tells you the colors in that paper pack. I find that's very useful to me when I'm making a card, so I pull the right color of cardstock out. So I want to show you how to make this, but it's not only for your 6x6 paper. You could put embossing folders. You could put finished cards in here. You could, as I have before, filled it with treats, and then I put a cello bag around it and tied it with a ribbon, and I gave it to some team members that way. And so there's a lot of different uses for it, and it's really easy, and it uses up something that you already get in your craft supply. So let's get started. We are going to need 2 pieces of the backing paper from Designer Series paper. One's going to be for the dividers, and one's going to be for the actual holder. So let me get the measurements out here. Let's grab the paper trimmer. First things first, we're going to cut one of them to 6x6. So it comes 12 by 12. So I'm just going to cut it down to 4 pieces of 6x6. And those will be the dividers. I don't worry about this writing that's in the middle because it's going to be hidden. So when I go to put these in as dividers, I just make sure it's down in the bottom and no one's actually going to ever see that. That's a great way to kind of use up some of this backing stuff. So there's 4 dividers, which basically gives me 5 segments. And we'll get to putting those together in a little bit. And then we need to cut down the second piece to 10 1/4 by 11. So let's get the arm out here. 10 1/4. And it doesn't matter, once again, this lands smack in the middle in here, but we're going to put it on the inside, so we're not even going to notice it. So 10 1/4 by 11. In there. And one side on these is sometimes a little shinier, glossier, or almost a waxy texture to it, and then the other side is sometimes more of a flat. It really doesn't matter when you're putting this together. We're going to cover part of it up anyhow. And you can make it as fancy or as utilitarian as you like. So I'm going to move that paper trimmer out the way and grab my Simply Scored tool. You could also do this with your paper trimmer scoring blade. And along the 10 1/4 inch side, so having the 10 1/4 inch side up at the top horizontal, we are going to score it at 2 inches all the way down and 8 1/4. Now, if you have trouble with your Simply Scored having it jump the tracks a little bit, if you use the stylus by pointing it at the top and then just going back and forth a little bit just to get started, that'll help you get in the proper groove. And the way I was shown to use this is the very thin end goes on thicker cardstock, and the very thick end typically goes on your designer series paper, and that's because the thicker end won't tend to pierce directly through your paper. All right, so we've done the 10 1/4 inch side. We scored at 2 and 8 1/4. I'm going to flip it to the 11-inch side across the top, and we're going to score at 3 inches and 5 inches. 3 inches and 5 inches. All right, now we need some scissors and a pencil and a ruler. And we're going to just make some marks on the paper backing sheet so we create this diagonal piece here. Otherwise, it's all going to sit very top heavy and you're not going to have that opening. So to do that, we're going to have it orientated so that the 10 1/4 inch side is horizontal to you. So it's 11 inches tall, 10 1/4 wide. And you're going to have the largest section above you. So this is the section where the score line from here to here is 6 inches. So just so you get orientated correctly. So it's going to be 6 inches from the top down to the first score line. On the very outside edges, we're going to measure down 3 inches. Put a little pencil mark there. We're going to do it on the same on the other side, measuring down 3 inches. Little pencil mark. And then we're going to grab the paper trimmer and we're going to cut from that little pencil mark up to the score line. So these are the two vertical score lines. So we're going to cut, so just into the track, you stick that little pencil mark running down the length of the track, and you have to turn your paper a little bit sometimes to get it to line up. So with that there, and then that score line up at the top, I'm just going to slice that off. And we'll do the same on the other side. So the pencil mark here to that other vertical score line. Not quite see it there. There we go. And that's just going to be a little bit of scrap. And we're done with the paper trimmer. Now we are going to cut in these two middle flaps. So you have this first score line from the top down comes in around 6 inches, and then the next score line here. So we're going to cut those flaps in where the square is. And we're not worrying about what's on the inside. We are going to keep it on the inside. This writing here, we'll just leave it on the inside. We're going to cut in, and we're going to do the same on the opposite side. Okay, now it's time to fold our score lines and burnish them. I'm going to fold over and burnish, fold over and burnish, and the score lines are going inside. We're going to wrap this guy around. This one. That's really going to help. And then these ones in as well. Okay. And then we'll open those up, and then we'll do the horizontal score lines. And get those all burnished nicely. So now you see how it's starting to come together. This is going to fold up. Actually, how I did it was I folded these two pieces where we cut the triangles off, fold them in, fold the tabs up, we'll glue those in place, and then we'll wrap the front around. And that's how it's going to look. Ready? So the first thing we want to do then is put some liquid glue on these square tabs. Now it is a bit slick on this paper a wee bit, so you just want to be mindful of that as you're pulling it over and placing it in a spot, that it might slip a little bit because the glue is wet, of course, and the paper you're working with is a bit slick. There we go, and then we'll do the same on the other side. You can see how much I love my liquid glue. It works so well for these kinds of things. There. And just hold it for a second to let it dry. You could use tear and tape. You could use Stampin' Seal or Stampin' Seal Plus, whatever is your preference. And then this is going to fold around and going to be just, oh, sorry, I just got this silly notice popping up here. Here we go. We're going to fold these around and glue them in place. So I'm putting the glue on the tabs that are folding around. Like that. All right. Fold them up and over. Press that one in place. Let gravity do the work. And then I can press on the top one too. Okay. So there we go. That is our holder. Now, when I filled it for people with things, I put like dimensionals and some glue in there. We were at a crop, I think it was. I put Kleenex or tissues and treats and even, it wasn't a water bottle, but it was almost like a juice box kind of thing. So you can fit quite a bit in here. And then I just took a cello bag and tied it and put a ribbon on it, and they had the holder to use for something else. Okay, so we're going to let that dry, and while that's drying, we're going to do our tabs. So how I did the tabs on my sample one here is I used this shaped punch from the Inked and Tiled bundle. And I'm going to punch out 4 of them. One for each of the divider sheets. That's 2, 3, 4. You could use a circle, you could use a square, you could use any kind of punch that you like. And you don't even have to put anything on it. It's just separating them. So then I'm going to just use my paper trimmer here and the scoring blade to go down along. So this is a great one to work with because it's really easy to see where you're going to go across and score to the middle 2 points down the center. I'm going to do that on all 4. Now if you work with a circle, it's a little bit more challenging. I just, when I was making this one, was thinking, well, this is a really nice shape to do it with. It'll have a nice point on the top. And it does. So I'm just going down the center of all 4. That one's shifting a wee bit. There we go. And then putting them together is fairly easy as well. Just want to fold them and again burnish them to help them stay down because we're going to work with some liquid glue. Did I see a point on top? No, it's point on the edges. Yeah. And then it upside down. Okay, so grab your 4 pieces. Now these are 6 by 6. They're still going to fit in there just perfectly. So to get them landing evenly, what I did was I put 1 on each end. I didn't want this to extend beyond the divider. I wanted it to kind of land about there. And then I'll just put some glue on it. I'll actually put glue on the whole thing. You could use tear and tape. That would probably be a good application for this one. And I get some glue on these, and then they'll be a bit tacky. You know, when you put the glue on and it sits to the air a little bit, they become a little tacky, which makes them a little easier to manage, I find. Oops, there we go. Okay, we'll get the first one going here. You have to be okay with liquid glue everywhere. So we're going to line this up, and I'm shooting for the middle down here across this edge. Got one, and then I'll put the other one on the other end. And then it's easier to fit the other two centered if you've got a right and a left edge figured out. And so this is where being ambidextrous and maybe even having an extra hand would be very helpful. Okay, so then here we go, just to see how they're lining up. Oops, that piece came loose, so they do take a little bit. Might not be a bad idea to put a punch or something on them to help them glue shut. And then for the middle one, middle two, I'm going to grab this one first. And I've done this before, so I have a pretty good sense of where that's going to lie. Now, if you had more, you could certainly do 5 or 6 little dividers. You just need a punch or die cut shape that will work. And this one goes here. Kind of fun. I love doing these kinds of projects. Well, I love 3D projects, number one, but also I just kind of like them as packaging as well. There. And so, yeah, pretty close. I'm okay with it not being perfect. So now that they're all lined up, we're going to set something on them to help them stay closed. There we go, while we work on the next piece. So now it's time to decorate, which is always our fun part. I went pretty simple. I'm using up this paper from Delightfully Eclectic. This is going to be a Christmas box, though, for sure I'd be using Christmas paper or Halloween or Valentine's or spring or Easter, whatever I want to use the box for. This piece here measures 10.5, and we are going to score it at 2 1/8 on one side. So on the left side, we'll score at 2 1/8. And then rather than trying to figure out what that measurement is over here, we're just going to flip it around and score it at 2 1/8 again. We'll just go that way. You could add another strip down the middle or a border or a trim to dress it up. You could add ribbon around it. I've done that before and then tied the ribbon over here with my tag hanging off of it. But you'll see that by design, this piece is just a little bit longer than the box edge. And that is so that you have a bit to cut off without it being short. Okay, so flatten it out a bit. Add some glue. And then we're going to hug it in place. Great. It's 2, oh, I didn't give you that measurement, did I? I think it's 2 3/4 tall. Oops, put it over here. 2 3/4 by 10.5. So let gravity do the work once again. And press it in place. Okay, now we can just trim off that excess bit there. And we know we haven't come up short on it. Just enough paper to do what we need to do. Now I also thought about, well, what if you don't really have any 12 by 12 paper to do the wraparound? What could you do? Well, here's what I would recommend, and that would be to put a layer here, because this is 6 inches, to put a layer that is 5 3/4, and then take a piece of pattern paper that's a little bit smaller than that and just kind of layer it on. And so you'd see the square edges, but you could add the designer series paper that way with a piece of cardstock. And none's the wiser. I didn't worry about the backs. Now, one thing I had thought would be really good to do if you wanted to glue them together you could and have them together on your table. Makes it harder to pick them up, but there is a way that you'll see as they line up like this, how nicely that would be on your shelf. You would have them, and you could put a little designation on the side or the front, however you have them laying on your shelf, of what's in them. All right, here's the dividers for these ones. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll slip those in there, and then I'll show you how it fits. And then you just slide your paper in and fill it up, and you're all set to go. The more that's in there, the better it holds together. All right, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. I appreciated the opportunity to share some ideas with you. I hope it brought you some new ideas and some inspiration, and you'll enjoy the rest of our weekend as we finish up our 12 days of Christmas. That's it for me. Take care. Bye now.